everybody. I'm High Priestess Jacquela of the Citadel. It was requested of me by our 5th Chair High Council member to start teaching those who have a great interest of our world and the ins and the outs of it. Good thing they picked me, because I've spent all of my time learning just that. Why am I not doing High Priestessy things? Well, that's because I entered this library and I never left it. I jumped into one book and then another and then another and another. I just couldn't help myself. Knowledge is power, they say, and what a great power it is. The High Council decided it was best I stay here as a librarian. Oh, how that does my heart wonders. So, without further ado, I'll lay out some of the basics of the races of Gaia for you and a general idea of the kind of world we live in. Yay! We'll start with the elves. Elves are generally gifted with magic as their essence is tied to that of the gods. You won't find many elves wondering about Gaia freely. Those who do, more than likely, were banished from their homeland or sent out on a very specific and important task, as they do tend to generally stick close to where they were born. A place of birth holds great importance for the elves, as this is where their power first entered the world. Some might say the elves are kinda snooty, but as they are children of the gods, they might feel they have all rights to hold their heads up high. The Cassidians, a cursed people, but also pirates, vagrants, and thieves alike. The Cassidian people had to share their land with a slew of witches that were banished to the island by the High Council. The witches were not so kind to the Cassidian people after some time. They abused their power by experimenting on the people of the island. Eventually, growing tired of the witches, the Cassidians revolted and overthrew the hags, all except for one. The witch's leader, however, was able to cast one last curse with her dying breath. The curse put on these people made them look like humanoid cats. If one were to travel to the island today, they would see some of the older Cassidians with a full fur coat. Aw, Fluffy. Anyway, run into a Cassidian on the sea, the more human they look, with simple cat ears, cat eyes, and a tail. It is said that should a Cassidian get wet, all of their fur will fall out, leaving them exposed to the elements. Not many are fans of the Cassidians, given their reputation and the way they look. But it's not rare to find them all over Gaia if you're on the coast. You won't find many, if any, Cassidians inland, because unlike natural cats, they absolutely love water. The rat people. Basically, just nasty little rat people. Seriously. They're gross. Beady little eyes, black in color, yellow jagged teeth. There is no debate that these beings are the nastiest things out there aside from the beasts that roam the land. They are known to thrive about the slums of larger cities and the kingdoms. No one really knows how or why they came to be. Probably another witch thing. Or maybe an offshoot of shape-shifting gone wrong. But no matter. It's completely best to avoid these disease-ridden little creatures. One bite from them, and it's sure your extremities will come right off. Or even worse, you might become one. Ew! The Fae. Fairies. A bit different than what you might think, though. The Fae are direct descendants of the elves of Gaia, making them the gods' weird little cousins. While they don't hold the same amount of power as the elves, they certainly can gain a scary amount through Gaia itself. Most people wonder, do they have wings? Yep. Each has a unique pair to suit their persona. Most just stick to bug wings, though. But some are more sophisticated. Almost every fae is unique in the way they look. Some might even consider most of them strangely deformed, and less perfect than the elves themselves. The older they become, the more like natural flora they resemble. They are a lot more tribal than the elves, making it pretty easy for the elves to look down their perfect, pointed little noses at them. They're usually found around temples, holy grounds, and the western point of the Saurodon continent. Vampires and the incubus, put into the same category because they both absorb something essential to the living. Telling the difference between the two isn't easy just upon looking at them. They both look quite dead with pale skin and a lack of any natural color. Vampires, however, grow pointed teeth when hunger strikes, while an incubus has no need for such a tool. The incubus tends to let off an intoxicating smell, most of the time that of roses or lavender and other kinds of flowers and herbs meant to relax the living. Vampires are those who feast upon the blood of the living, using their manipulative stare to lure in unsuspecting victims, while an incubus feeds upon the essence of the living. Both are considered leeches to all the living in Gaia, and both tend to gather and live together in covens, where they are said to plot their ploys of hunting us living creatures down. They tend not to like sunlight, but some have found ways around that, as scary as that might sound. It is said that it is their goal to completely turn and kill all the living in Gaia, but that makes little sense as we are their primary food source. They're more likely to herd us like cows and pick us off as they need to feast, if you had to ask me. The first of their kind was said to have been created by a fae breeding with the daemon. It is not sure which came first, or even if this is true of their original origin, but for now, this is all we have to go on, as they are quite tall, dark, and mysterious creatures. Shapeshifters and doppelgangers. Shapeshifters can take on the forms of animals, while doppelgangers can only do humanoid forms. There was a time where the elves were kind of on a kick of breeding with non-elemental beasts, and they don't like talking about it. But this is where it said the first shapeshifter came into being. The only way for them to become an animal of their choice is to consume the animal they wish to be. Now, vampires and incubus alike aren't really huge fans of them, claiming that they smell to high heavens like rotten meat. They're a good race to keep around if you want to keep the likes of those blood and soul suckers away. Doppelgangers are said to have come from a shapeshifter breeding with a pureblood, and it's pretty certain that the pureblood had no idea what it was breeding with, as shapeshifters tend to travel in their humanoid forms, but nonetheless, a doppelganger was born. They are able to take on the shape of anyone whose flesh they have feasted upon. Ew. That's gross. That's really gross. Nobody likes a cannibal, which is why you won't even know if a doppelganger's in your midst. They don't generally like to talk about it, and often have a top secret job of sorts to do. Good luck spotting them in a crowd, because if you do, you're most likely already dead and a part of their creepy little collection of skins. The daemons. These are sorcerers who are struggling to keep control over their power. When one loses control, they become an elemental beast, a terrible monster to forever wander the lands of Gaia. It is truly a scary thing to imagine, losing oneself to their power, something none of us ever wished upon another. The horizon point before that moment, though, can be drug out, but they're pretty much ticking time bombs with no real indication of a timer. Often they go into berserker mode, where their power has full control over their body for a brief time. If one is strong enough, or with the aid of an item or other magics, they can fight their way back to the brink of sanity and pick up where their normal struggle left off, if they're lucky. If they aren't, the use of their power has only pushed them closer to the edge of becoming a mindless beast. Most have even taken partial form of a beast already, some of them looking quite hellish and most deterring. Most demons are banished to the kingdom of Dive Hell by the High Council, a place thought to be literal hell on Gaia. No place I really ever want to go. Nope. The Madra. No one really knows where these beings came from. Rumor has it that they are an outcome of a mass alchemist experiment gone wrong. But if this were true, the alchemists hid their mistakes quite well, as there's really no solid proof to support this claim. Much like the Casidians, they all tend to gather in one specific area of the Gaian map, primarily up by Novi Duin and to the high north up above Damhan on the Mu continent. They prefer cooler temperatures and don't fancy moving around much outside of their territory, as though they have something to protect there. They also prefer to travel in packs. You won't often see a Madra by itself, and if you do, watch your back because you're most likely about to come under attack. There's not much to know about the Madra, as they're quite secretive and rather protective over their secrets. This makes them primarily good at being mercenaries and spies for those of them who do tend to venture outside of their packs into the rest of the world. The purebloods. Humans, who are not really too fond of all the other races, but to be fair, all the other races aren't really too fond of them either. They are more likely to have a higher technological understanding and interest in technology than the rest of the races, as it is them who brought technology to Gaia to begin with. The purebloods are the first race to start populating the world of Gaia's otherworlders, but unlike the otherworlders we see today, they all came together in one foul swoop and started breeding like little bunny rabbits. By all other races on Gaia, they are seen to be weak and fragile and completely useless to the environment which Gaia provides. And quite clearly, only troublemakers. This can be seen with the study of the Mech and Magic War of 830 AG, where the purebloods nearly wipe out all of existence as Gaia knew it. These people are primarily the users of witchery and alchemy, as they aren't born with natural power like most everyone else. Both are quite unstable forms of magic, much like their technology. All in all, staying away from the purebloods is a pretty good idea, as all they've ever been since settling in Gaia are troublemakers. Ooh, it's my favorite part! The sorcerers. As much as the sorcerers is like purebloods, they do have the human race to thank for their existence. The elves bred with the purebloods and poof! We were born! Who knew something so great could come out of something so mussy and muddled? It was truly a sign from the gods that we were meant to be. As it seems, the sorcerers are somewhat like their elven half, taking pity on all who lack natural power, and are to this day quite literally the most powerful race on the planet. With the wit and the knowledge of the purebloods, and the power and political finesse of the elves, it was no surprise that this came to be. To this day, the sorcerers control most political powers in Gaia, keeping every other race at bay from the brink of petty little wars. One might venture to say that they are the best race, but that would make them rather racist and supremacist in the eyes of, well, everybody. And we just aren't like that. The High Council and the Mobius cities and all 4 kingdoms are controlled by, you've got it, the sorcerers, the peacekeepers of all of Gaia, the protectors of ballots. Hooray, sorcerers! And finally, the otherworlders, beings who obviously are from worlds outside of Gaia. No one knows why they keep appearing in this world. Some think it has to do with the growth of the void. Others think that the gods themselves are drawing them here, while few just blame the purebloods because they were the first ones to come here by the same means. Which kinda makes sense. But while no one knows why and can only speculate, all one can really do is hear out their stories. The stories of their lives before they were sucked into a portal and plopped out here in Gaia. From the Tree of Life in Domham, the Fountain of Purity in Hybrazel, the Skylight Spike of Old Mobius, the Infinity Hole in Diepel, the Void, to the Grand Sorcery Towers, and even the Elemental Crests which grant us our power here on Gaia. There's so much more to cover that I will have to teach separate lessons for each and everything. I hope this introduction into Gaia was enough to keep your attention. Thank you so much for joining me as I feed all those who wish to seek more knowledge their just dues. Come for another helping soon, and may the gods be with you on your ventures.
Oh, this wig is so very